Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Astotra Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Om Ajnanatimarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulangayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinatarinam Paramanandam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Isharam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutala Srimati Rama Padaswami Ati Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutala Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Ati Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshatarine. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 71, verse 39. Govindam griham aniya deva devesham adridaha pujayam navidat krityam pramodo pahato nripaha. Govindam griham aniya deva devesham adridaha pujayam navidat krityam pramodo pahato nripaha. Govindam griham aniya deva devesham aditaha pujayam navidat krityam pramodo pahato nipaha. Please chant. Govindam, Lord Krishna, Griham, to his quarters, Aniya, bringing, Deva, of all gods, Deva Isham, the supreme God and controller, Aditaha, reverential, Pujayam, in the ritual of worship. Na avidat, did not know. Krityam, the details of performance. Pramoda, by his great joy. Upahataha, overwhelmed. Nripaha, the king. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C.Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. King Yudhishthira respectfully brought Lord Govinda, the supreme god of gods, to his personal quarters. The king was so overcome with joy that he could not remember all the rituals of worship. Purport. Srila Prabhupada writes, As he brought Krishna within the palace, King Yudhishthira became so confused in his jubilation that he practically forgot what he was to do at the time in order to receive Krishna and worship him properly. So for some time now we've been hearing about Krishna's different interactions with his devotees. One verse we were reading last week was talking about his reciprocation with his seniors, equals, and juniors in a particular way, depending on relationship. Yesterday's verse spoke about how when Kunti and Draupadi saw Krishna, they embraced him. And now today we're hearing that upon seeing Krishna, Yudhishthira has become bewildered by excitement in seeing Krishna and has forgotten how to properly receive him, which is an entirely common human emotion. So if somebody, famous walked in right now, depends on what kind of famous, I suppose. Material celebrity, there might not be so much excitement amongst devotees, but if somebody that's a very celebrated devotee came, someone like Radhanath Swami entered the temple, then there would be a mix of reactions ranging from delight to bewilderment. It's not uncommon for people to forget how to act around a famous person. Krishna being the most famous person, it's not terribly surprising that even his greatest devotees and his family members are becoming confused and excited and bewildered and forgetful upon seeing him. I saw on social media a devotee was telling a story, and they were asking other devotees, who's the most famous person you know? Oh, I know this, musician, or I know that actor. Oh, I met George Harrison back, in the day. And they're saying they're kind of disappointed by this answer because Krishna is actually the most famous person. So as devotees, we should all be trying to know Krishna. And if we know Krishna, then we know the most famous person. So who else can compare? If you know Krishna, you know the most famous person of them all. So this is a natural thing. Even when devotees see the deity, sometimes these symptoms are exhibited. I remember my first time taking darshan in Vrindavan. The excitement and the anticipation was really building up over the last, 20 hours or so that it took to get there, more than 20 hours. And so just to be in Vrindavan, I was very excited. And then I had, once I had reached Vrindavan from the hotel I was at, I had about a quarter-mile walk to Krishna Balaram. And that quarter mile was the longest quarter mile of my life, because I was so excited to get there and see Krishna Balaram and Radhe Shyam and see Prabhupada's Samadhi and experience all of that. And, entering the temple, it was such a mix of emotions and things going on. It was so exciting to finally see the deities that I was kind of bewildered for a little bit, just staring at them, how beautiful they were. This is, these feelings were accentuated by the fact that it was also Ekadasi. And in Vrindavan on Ekadasi, they decorate very beautifully with so many flowers. So it was a really incredible sight. And I was stunned. I wasn't really noticing what was going on around me. All I knew is there's an ocean of people around me. And my heart rate rose, and all I could do was just stare. Jaw on the floor, eyes wide open, completely in awe at how beautiful those deities are and how incredibly fortunate I was to be having their darshan in person in Raman Reti, Vrindavan. So, we have, I'm sure we all have some similar experiences about excitement to see some deities or go to some dham, visit some holy place. Usually on Janmashtami, we feel this excitement as well. At about 11:55, it really starts to build up. That last 5 minutes before midnight darshan on Janmashtami, it's electric at every temple I've ever been to. So we can imagine how Yudhishthir felt in this moment. How, excited he must have been. The emotions he must have been feeling, seeing Krishna, this wonderful, amazing king, this incredibly beautiful person, his own cousin that everybody is, absolutely in love with and always happy to see. And not just is he seeing Krishna, but Krishna's entering into his house. Has to be quite the experience to have Krishna visit your house. So Yudhishthira is actually Krishna's cousin, and this familial connection is also playing a role in Yudhishthira's feelings. There's some proper rituals that are to be followed when a guest enters the home. What to speak of when a king enters your home, another king. And at this time, he's kind of forgetting all of these ritualistic aspects of how to properly receive Krishna, who is not just his cousin or a great king and ruler, but also the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We do notice, though, that in relationships that Krishna has with his family members, his intimate associates, usually these people either don't know or they don't care that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the mood we find in Vrindavan. They're not particularly concerned if Krishna is the Supreme Person or not. All they know is that Krishna is a very wonderful person, and they all love him very much, and they like to talk about how wonderful he is and all the wonderful things that he does. This familial relation or the village relation, whatever relation Krishna's intimate associates are in with him, kind of overrides the awe and reverence mood that people like us in our condition would feel towards Krishna. And in the same way, we see this in our material relationships as well. Prabhupada, in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, uses I think it's in the introduction to the Gita, the example of the president or a prime minister. That actually the president's family doesn't care that he's the president. The wife isn't saying, "Oh, hello, Mr. President. Good morning. Welcome to the kitchen." And the children don't salute him every time he walks into the room. When the president's with his family, they act in that familial relation. They reciprocate as any other family members would, despite the position of the father as the president. His wife would treat him with affection, and there's a fatherly relationship between the president and his children. Sometimes, as part of these relationships, the children might play fight with the president. Anyone else tries to hit the president, and they're going to get tackled by Secret Service. But if, in a playful mood, the president's children try to hit him, then they're just playing. The wife will speak sweet words to the husband, which is not something that the vice president would do, hopefully. So the president, though he has, this particular relationship with his coworkers and with the citizens of the country and with other world leaders, he has an entirely different relationship with his family members. And these two moods don't really serve each other very well. So similarly, Krishna has relationships with each of his devotees that vary in according to position in the ways and means which Krishna and his devotees interact. And we also have our eternal relationship with Krishna. At this point, it's pretty covered, and most of us at least aren't quite remembering. But that relationship is there. And in this state, we have a slightly different relationship or a different expression or understanding of our relationship. So, for example, when one's serving on the altar, the official mood of worship within ISKCON, according to the ISKCON deity worship ministry, is the mood of awe and reverence. And another example of this changing relationships we can see based on Krishna's manifested Leela in Kavi Karnapur's Gauraganadesh Dipika. We know that Sanatan Goswami is Rati Manjari in Vraja Leela. So there's a particular mood in the Vrindavan Leela. There's a particular mood in the Gora Leela, and they're very different because the position is different. In Gora Leela, Sanatan Goswami is one of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's foremost associates and disciples. And he's been given the task of uncovering the places of Radha Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, residing in Vrindavan and writing literatures. And one of those literatures in particular is this one, very nice book that we have available here, called Krishna Leela Stava. And Sanatan Goswami, in this Krishna Leela Stava, gives us some indication of how, one of the ways we can relate to Krishna at this time in our respective covered states. So what Sanatan Goswami does in this Krishna Leela Stava is he's offering different obeisances. And there's so many different topics in which he offers obeisances to. And the 107th of 108 obeisances that he offers is some verses composed to the Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's 5 of them. For the sake of time, I'm only going to read the 3 that I have some notes on. So in the 413th text of Krishna Lila Stava, Sanatana Goswami says, O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. So Sanatana Goswami refers to the Bhagavatam as our life air and our light in the dark age of Kali. So by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, by talking about Srimad Bhagavatam, we are lighting up this darkness. We're starting to learn and understand what the truth actually is. And by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we serve Srimad Bhagavatam. In the next verse, Srila Sanatana Goswami says, I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. So Sanatana Goswami is telling us that not just the Bhagavatam is our light in the darkness, and that it's very important to the devotees, but actually that Srimad Bhagavatam can be served by everybody, and that the Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. So that puts even more importance on reading Bhagavatam together, discussing Bhagavatam, distributing Bhagavatam, telling people about Bhagavatam, because by talking about Srimad Bhagavatam, we're talking about Krishna directly. So this is Sanatana Goswami. What he's doing is he's actually calling us to preach and to distribute books and to share this beautiful Bhagavatam with everybody. And in his the final part of his 107th obeisance, he says, O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. So we should have a relationship with Bhagavatam. And by having a relationship with Bhagavatam and understanding that relationship, then we can start to understand our position in this life. By understanding our position in this life, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? What am I meant to do at this life? And so many other topics that are covered by the Srimad Bhagavatam, then we understand our position, what to do. And when we start talking about our position, what to do as devotees, that's where Chaitanya Charitamrita comes in. By understanding Chaitanya Charitamrita, we understand exactly what we are meant to do in this life, because Mahaprabhu gives us the perfect example of a perfect devotee. By doing what we're meant to do in this life, then at the end of this life, we can give up the cycle of birth and death and return to our original position. We re-engage in our true relationship with Krishna. It's eternally there, and it's exactly customized to each individual jiva. The relationship I have with Krishna is totally different than the relationship that you have with Krishna or anybody else has with Krishna. This is one of Krishna's potencies, is that he can reciprocate individually with each devotee and completely satisfy every devotee in that relationship. And we know that there is, on one level of analysis, there's a hierarchy of relationships that we can have with Krishna. but there's no envy between devotees in different positions. There's only complete satisfaction in that relationship, because Krishna is so expert at reciprocating with each, not just each type of relationship, but each individual jiva. This is the reason why we find that there's unlimited Vaikuntha planets, so that Krishna can engage with his unlimited devotees in unlimited ways. He expands himself in so many varieties of form, just so that he can satisfy his devotees in a variety of ways and fulfill their desires to interact with him according to their constitution. We have so many different inclinations on how to interact with Krishna, how to serve Krishna, etc. Tangible example of this is Murari Gupta is one of Lord Chaitanya's foremost devotees. He is also a incarnation of Hanuman. So he has this eternal relationship with Lord Ramachandra. He has an eternal relationship with Chaitanya. And even though Mahaprabhu was constantly speaking about Radha Krishna Prema and encouraging everyone to take shelter of Krishna Nam, Murari Gupta said he just can't give up Lord Ramachandra. He can't give up Lord Ram's name. There's a very nice pastime in that connection. I think it's in Chaitanya Bhagavat, but don't quote me on that. And we know that Lord Ram is non-different from Lord Krishna, but there is still difference, even though they are non-different. That is one of the aspects of Achintya Bheda. There's oneness and difference. There's a distinction. So the devotees, we can see, become attached to Krishna in a variety of ways. But for each way that a devotee is attached to Krishna or wants to serve Krishna, Krishna reciprocates with them perfectly. Another example of this is Krishna's, we were reading not so long ago, Krishna's 16,108 queens of Dwarka, that he's present in every single one of these palaces and reciprocating and doing his pastimes according to the mood of each of his queens. And he's also in the Ras Leela, appearing in front of every gopi in such a way that every gopi thinks Krishna is dancing with me personally. He's dancing just with me. It's just me and Krishna. And Krishna is also able to expand himself in such a way that he's in the heart of every devotee. And it's for this reason that our material relationships are always falling short. At the end of the day, we are each one jiva, and we are unable to expand ourselves in such a way that we can interact differently amongst different people. It's one of our limitations, one of the things we can't do. One of the reasons why we're not God is that we can't expand ourselves and interact with different people in different ways at the same time. But we can realize the perfection of material relationships by realizing that if we center our material relationships around Krishna and serving Krishna, then we can actually have harmony in our relationships. We have to abandon our false prestige, overcome envy, and then we're actually able to have harmonious relationships with each other if we're having envy or pride or any of these things, thinking, oh, I'm doing a more important service than this person, or that person is not doing a very good job at their service, and they should and could and would do much better if they would just listen to me, because I know how they should do their service. When we take the humble position and try to help each other in a humble and submissive mood, because we can try to help each other in less helpful moods. When we try to help each other humbly, though, then we can have nice relationships with each other as devotees that are centering around Krishna, that are still healthy and fulfilling and all of that. In previous ages, during the process of initiation, there was given what's called the Siddha Pranali mantra. But we don't necessarily do this in Kali Yuga. Siddha Pranali mantra is meant for uncovering one's Siddha Deha, or the eternal relationship we have with Krishna. But in this age, we don't have a specific mantra for this. Our mantra for everything is the Hare Krishna mantra. So by chanting Hare Krishna, by following prescriptions of the acharyas to help us in chanting Hare Krishna, what we're doing, instead of primarily focusing on uncovering that position, is we're taking part in what Bhaktisiddhanta calls the effacing process, which removes our covering that's keeping us from understanding our Siddha Deha. It's helping us become alleviated from our forgetful position and remember our actual position just by chanting Hare Krishna. It's so much easier than other processes, and we're very fortunate. So there's no need for extra endeavor, for mental speculation. We don't have to concoct our own processes. What Srila Prabhupada has given is exactly sufficient for remembering and re-entering into our original position. Prabhupada gives a very nice analogy. He's walking along during a morning program once, or during a morning walk, and it's cold this morning, and he stops. There's a frozen puddle, and he taps it with his cane and says, "What is this?" And naturally everybody's thinking, well, it's a frozen puddle, it's ice. Srila Prabhupada, ever astute at giving these perfect analogies based on what he observes in the world around him, he says, this is the nature of the conditioned living entity. Because water's constitutional position is to be liquid, it has become frozen. It's not in its natural state to be frozen. Just like the living entity's natural condition is to serve Krishna, but in the conditioned state, the living entity is thinking itself to be the controller and the enjoyer. And it's due to this conditioned state that we can't approach Krishna directly. That's why the first altar is Guru and Gauranga. We can't approach Krishna with our own endeavor. We will fall short. We won't be able to properly serve and reciprocate with Krishna because of our shortcomings in this covered condition. By the mercy of Guru, however, then we can approach Krishna. Prabhupada says that Guru is the person who takes the hand of the disciple and puts it in Krishna's hand. Guru is the one that makes the introduction. There's another nice story Prabhupada was in England and they were riding in a car. In England, instead of the smaller postal boxes like we have here, they have these very large, ornate ones, red in color. They're quite tall in comparison to our postal boxes for depositing letters and things like that. So they're driving along in the car. Prabhupada sees a child trying to put a letter into the postal bin. But the child's a little bit too short and the bin's a little bit too tall. And they just can't quite get the letter into the bin. And so Prabhupada says, just see. This is, so a man comes along, it's a child's jumping, trying to get the letter, and picks the child up. Child puts the envelope into the bin, puts the child down, and the child runs along. Prabhupada says, just see. This is exactly like Guru. The disciple is always trying to serve Krishna, but he can only do so with the help of Guru. Our Mangalarti prayers also state as much. Sri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana, then Yuktasya Bhaktams Chanayunjatopi, that the spiritual master is always engaged in the worship of Radha and Krishna. And the spiritual master is also engaging his disciples, he's engaging the devotees in the worship of their lordships. So it's by this this engagement by the Guru that we can serve Krishna. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that we shouldn't act in a way that we want to see Krishna, but we should act in such a way that Krishna wants to see us. And that way of acting, so that Krishna wants to see us, is given by the Guru. The Guru teaches us how to act in that way. And by following the instructions of Guru, of the Acharya, we can understand what that means. Srila Prabhupada says there's 2 tracks on which the Krishna consciousness movement is acting. So there's 2 different modes of acting, 2 different activities that we're doing in this Krishna consciousness movement. He says that it operates simultaneously on these 2. These are called Pantra Triki Vidi and Bhagavat Vidi. Pantra Triki Vidi means all things that are involved in deity worship. And Prabhupada defines Bhagavat Vidi as chanting, dancing, and feasting. He says that we can get by without the Pantra Triki Vidi, but we cannot survive without the Bhagavat Vidi. That's because this Bhagavat Vidi is directly the movement of Lord Chaitanya. We know that without the mercy of Guru and Krishna, we can't get, or with the mercy of Guru and Gauranga, we can't get Krishna. So we should try to participate in the Bhagavat Vidi as much as possible in alignment with our position, in alignment with our constitution. And there's plenty of ways to do this. So just as Krishna is expanding himself in unlimited ways to interact with his pure devotees, he's also giving us so many different ways to purify ourselves, to engage in Mahaprabhu's mission. So one of the ways that we can engage in the Bhagavad Vidi that's particularly pertinent according to our time, place, and circumstance is the Chaitanya Charitamrita distribution marathon. If you haven't noticed, this is a theme in all of my classes as of Nityananda Trayodasi, that there is this marathon going on, that we're trying to distribute sets of Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is my weekly plug for that. Along with that, I have a summary of a quote from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, giving the importance of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. He said that the Chaitanya Charitamrita should be preserved at all costs, and on its own, it's sufficient to reestablish human civilization. He puts the Chaitanya Charitamrita in importance ahead of the Bhagavad Gita and even ahead of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is how important Bhaktisiddhanta feels the Chaitanya Charitamrita to be. Another way that is timely that we can engage is starting yesterday through the 24th, which is Gaura Purnima. There will be daily recitation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita right here in the temple. No need to be a Sanskrit or Bengali expert to participate. Readings are just the English translations and the Bhaktivedanta purports. So we can come and hear the Chaitanya Charitamrita and get a little bit of understanding, a little bit of knowledge, some purification from hearing. And we can also participate by volunteering to read. It's a really wonderful way to become immersed in these pastimes of Gauranga. So if you'd like to volunteer to read, you can see Leela Manjari. And if you just want to hear, you can show up. The readings go from 10 to 1, and then there's a lunch break, and then from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and then there's a break for Gora Arti, and then from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So this is really, really wonderful thing. Bit of a yagya. It takes, by my rough calculation, between 70 and 90 hours total to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita just by reading the verses and purports. There's a group of devotees that are very dedicated to do it, determined to do it, and you can help them. It would be a very nice thing. So, having said that, we now have some time for discussion, questions, comments, complaints, concerns, criticisms, chastisements, comments, etc.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your class. Being somewhat familiar with Bhagavad Gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita, is there anything that you notice that makes the Chaitanya Charitamrita more important than the Bhagavad Gita? Is there anything that you can say that you've realized? I mean, at least noticed on it about the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
So the Chaitanya Charitamrita is 4,500 years more recent than the Bhagavad Gita. So on that basis, I would assert that it's more relevant to our lives today. We can take the literal aspects of the Bhagavad Gita, the time, place, and circumstance at which it was spoken. It was spoken in a different yuga where people behaved differently and were capable of different things than we are today. Not very often now does a world leader or ruler of a country go to battle, nor do they fight in a way that is as honorable as they fought in the Kurukshetra war. So on those bases, it can be a little bit hard to connect with the Bhagavad Gita. At least I find it kind of difficult. Some of the more mundane or base level themes. There's obviously all of the information is transcendental, but the presentation isn't always understandable for the reader. I don't know how many times I read the Gita before. It wasn't like some huge number, but there was a couple times I read the Gita before I read Prabhupada's Gita, where it was just completely unintelligible to me. And even after reading Prabhupada's Gita for a while, it was still difficult to extract some of the lessons and understandings, and it's taken a lot of effort to get the meanings that are given in the Gita. It's eternally useful, and the knowledge in it is eternally applicable, but it can be a little bit more difficult to apply depending on time, place, and circumstance. Chaitanya Charitamrita, for us specifically, is all the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. The knowledge is non-different because there's a very, very great deal of philosophy spoken in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Biographies of Mahaprabhu fall into two categories. Usually there's the philosophical treatises on what Mahaprabhu taught, and there are biographies that are more centered around the Leela, around the pastimes. And what Kaviraj Goswami did in the Chaitanya Charitamrita was combine both of these things, particularly the later pastimes of Mahaprabhu. But the first, I think, 14 chapters of the CC are dedicated to elaborating upon one statement that he makes in the first chapter, that Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya is non-different from Lord Krishna, and that they are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that statement takes about 14 chapters to unpack, substantiate, and repack in such a way that it can't be defeated by scholars. So, that first little bit can be a little bit difficult to understand, a little bit bewildering. But once we start getting into the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, then it becomes a lot easier to understand how we as devotees should be acting. Because the perfection of the highest level of devotional attitude is that which is displayed by Srimati Radharani to Krishna, and Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radharani as a devotee. So it's the perfect example of how a devotee thinks, acts, behaves, etc. In Kali Yuga, in a less than favorable environment. And it's our process as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, as people coming directly in the line of Mahaprabhu, that this is how we behave. So the importance is that exactly, that this is how we do things. This is how we boogie as devotees, as followers of Mahaprabhu, as followers of Rupa Goswami, as followers of Prabhupada. The perfection of our devotional life is to, it's very simple. Always think of Krishna, never forget him. That's one of the most highlighted messages in the CC, and so many different practical examples.
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. Maharaja told me he recommended that I study and give lectures on Bhagavad Gita first, then then to give lectures on Srimad Bhagavatam. So why do you think he said that? You know, most of the time I hear that the sannyasis and the teachers want us to read Bhagavad Gita first. So why do you think they say that? You know, me myself, I can understand Srimad Bhagavatam pretty much, and Bhagavad Gita, like you said, is a little difficult, you know, sometimes.
There is a common analogy used in ISKCON to um, elucidate the way the knowledge is explained, or the level in which the knowledge is explained between Bhagavatam, Gita, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. That Gita is like your, and I'm not a college person, so I'm probably just going to butcher the exact terms, but Gita is like the bachelor's level, and Bhagavatam is master's, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is doctorate level understanding of this philosophy. So the Gita gives it in one particular form. It's a little more base level. It's not quite as in depth. Just the information in general that comes in disciplic succession. It's, naturally it's smaller in size, so the lessons aren't going to be quite as elaborated upon. And the Bhagavatam expands not just on bhakti, but on so many other processes and so many other different types of information, science, and things of that nature. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita is very pinpointed in its information. It's pinpointed directly on pure devotional service. And not just pure devotional service in general, but pure devotional service in the mood of conjugal love. So if we can understand Bhagavad Gita, then we have a better shot at understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we can understand Srimad Bhagavatam, then we have a better shot of understanding Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Bhagavad Gita is usually recommended at first because it's like base level knowledge of things, how to act, how to be a person. What is the mode of goodness? What is the mode of passion? What is the mode of ignorance? Which mode should we be in? We should be in the mode of goodness. Why should we be in the mode of goodness? Because it allows us to become transcendental. How do we be in the mode of goodness? What foods are in the mode of goodness? How does a person act who is in the mode of goodness? Sage of steady mind. And by understanding those things, it's part of the refinement process to understand the things that are explained in the Bhagavad Gita, those types of topics that I just listed. And by understanding those, then we become qualified. One can't immediately begin doing multiplication if they don't know how to count. So once you know how to count, you still can't do multiplication. You have to start with addition and subtraction. Then once you master addition and subtraction, or at least get a pretty firm grasp on it, then you can go to multiplication. Once you start doing multiplication, you can get really weird and start throwing letters in there, doing algebra and things like that. So our process is incremental knowledge. It's building. Here's a fact, and here's another fact. And fact 2 is supported by fact 1. So when we can explain something in our own words, that means we actually have understood it. So that is, as far as I understand, the reason why there's such an emphasis on understanding Bhagavad Gita, distributing Bhagavad Gita to new people, having Bhagavad Gita classes, teaching Bhagavad Gita, so that we have a firm base level of knowledge, so that we can then expand upon that. And based on a person's understanding, their constitution, their nature, guru can give specific instructions that, you should study this book, understand it, teach it, and then you can focus on the next book. But just the generalized thing in ISKCON is that we try to start people off with Bhagavad Gita and then progress Bhagavatam CC. And it's easier for several reasons. Does that answer nicely, or at least acceptably?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.